Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who have been here before, if this is the first time, welcome to the channel. I am hitting the road on my way to Fuqing City in Fujian province. Maybe not even overnight, maybe just for a short little visit and meeting. And yeah, I thought I'd take you guys along. Maybe talk a little bit about some of what was said in the last video. Maybe talk a little bit about Hong Kong. So stick around.
摘下星星送给你，摘下月亮送给你，让太阳每天为你升起。变成蜡烛燃烧自己，只为照亮你。把我一切都献给你，只要你欢喜。你让我每个明天都变得有意义。生命虽短，爱你永远不离不弃。你是我的小。
Welcome back to the road and the mountains of Fujian province. By the way, I don't know if I've mentioned this in any of my videos. This place is, it's really what I pictured China to be before I ever came here. I suspect that has something to do with pictures hanging in a lot of my favorite Chinese restaurants back in the United States. It turns out most of the restaurant owners and restaurant workers are from Fujian province, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But yeah, temples everywhere, mountains. Having spent most of my time in other parts of China, I kind of got used to the idea of all of that stuff not being there. At one time, all of China would have been just covered with temples and that sort of thing, but the communists kind of destroyed all of those during the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward. I guess that didn't happen so much down here because every little neighborhood has its own temple, and it's just really amazing. Actually, today, earlier, we went to what I thought was just a park, but it turns out that it's a park that leads up to a bunch of ancient temples and that sort of thing. My son was afraid of all of it, of course. At one point, he was trying to get away from me and, you know, do what a 2-year-old does. And he started going through this little gate, and he didn't know there are these big statues. I'm not sure if they're, I think it's a Buddhist temple. But he goes through, and he looks up and realizes there's these big, giant, scary-looking guys sitting on, you know, thrones or something. And as soon as he saw it, you know, of course, it terrified him, and he came running back out and grabbed onto me. But I thought that was funny. He's always trying to get away, you know. That's how kids are. But anyway, yeah, that's the GPS. Back to what I was saying about Hong Kong and everything that's happening in Hong Kong. I know I'm a little bit late to the show on this one, but I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate exactly what it means to have Hong Kong basically lose its status. A lot of people, maybe some of you have heard, you know, it's a world financial center. That's a big deal. But it's also a major cultural center. I mean, how many people have watched, I mean, if you're watching this or know anything about China, you're probably a fan of Kung Fu movies. Well, believe it or not, well, actually, it shouldn't surprise you. A lot of those old Kung Fu movies actually came out of Hong Kong. There's a whole, I mean, there's a huge influence in Hollywood and in media. Here in Asia, there's a lot of, you know, music. Anything you can think of culturally, it comes out of there. Sorry, there's the GPS again. It's really, really terrible to see what's happening. I mean, I don't know if everybody, again, I don't know if people fully appreciate just what it means for what is happening in Hong Kong. To me, it's like a punch in the gut. It's one of my favorite cities on this earth. And then to see it going through this, basically, when this is over, I expect that Hong Kong is going to be reduced to the equivalent of a county-level city under the jurisdiction of Shenzhen, which is the Chinese mainland city that's across the way from Hong Kong. It'll no longer be what it is, and it would be as if New York City were suddenly to just be reduced to. Let me even try and think of something comparable. Just imagine it if overnight New York was suddenly just the same as, I don't know, Salt Lake City or something like that, or Oklahoma City. It just completely lost its status and became nothing. That's what's happening to Hong Kong. Oh, here we go. We're about to enter into a series of tunnels.
道中有违章拍照，
I've got to be careful about my speed. They
前
have
方进入连续隧道，
speed limit cameras everywhere over here. But yeah, these tunnels.
平均时速90，进入连续隧道，请
Yeah,
开
they
车
really.
灯。
I guess it's the only way to have a highway go through here is to have a bunch of tunnels. Some of them are really long, surprisingly long. But yeah, here comes another one. That one goes through. We immediately enter into another tunnel. But as I was saying, some of these are extremely long.
隧道后
even going as far as
有违章拍照。
that GPS, over a mile in some cases, sometimes more. Yeah, just really long. But like I was saying with Hong Kong, it's really a punch in the gut to see this happening. Yeah, the latest that I've heard is that Taiwan, the United States, and the UK are offering for people or residents of Hong Kong to, I guess, come and live in their countries, which is a big deal. I expect that a lot of them are going to take Taiwan up on the offer. You know, you'd think the United States and the UK is a little bit closer to something they're used to because it used to be controlled by the UK. I could see a lot of them wanting to maybe relocate to New York because that's the closest thing I can think of as far as comparable cities to Hong Kong. But you know, Taiwan, with most of them being Chinese and Taiwan being Chinese, they might just feel a little more comfortable going there, and it's also a lot closer. Similar environment. Yeah, I see them probably going to Taiwan. So who knows? Taipei might see a huge boom in population, and as well as seeing a lot of business, banking money coming into Taiwan and the Taipei area. So yeah, Taiwan is likely to become a very prosperous place, I think, here before long. I'm sure there's a lot of doomsayers out there about the economies around the world, but I think just this last month, the United States added back 2.5 million jobs. That's quite a number. I'd say that's a pretty good sign that things are likely to come back here before long, and what has happened is only a temporary setback. I wish that was the case here in China. Unfortunately, the way they've handled things has led to a lot of the world. I mean, people were already upset about jobs being lost to China and all of these ideas before this happened, and they've had some pretty bad PR fiascos as far as, it's more than PR fiascos. I want to make this clear as far as my stance on these things. What's happening in Xinjiang province and what's happening in Hong Kong and other sensitive places, that I am completely against what they're doing. And I think for the most part, most Westerners are quite against it, and I don't know for certain, but well, actually I do. I know a lot of Chinese people. They're not bad people or anything. They don't wish evil on anybody. They're not necessarily racist. And I think a lot of them, oh goodness, be quiet, GPS. If they knew what was going on, if they had the full picture of what's going on and not the propaganda image of what's going on in Xinjiang and these other places, I don't think that they would support it either. Pulling off here to get some caffeine, since this is it's a 2-hour drive. Long drive, I'm getting something. Yeah, let's hope that their little supermarket in this thing is open. Otherwise, this will be a wasted trip. Should be interesting anyway. Get myself parked. Starbucks coffee. Ah, success. Now I have some caffeine. Should help me get through the drive. And hopefully I'll be there about 8 o'clock or so. Just in time for my little meeting. I guess time to hit the road. By the way, I see some cops standing out here, which is a good way for me to get into what we were talking about in the last video with my wife and the difference between the American police and the Chinese police. I know, again, there's a lot of bad things that happen, but the everyday cop here in China is very different from the everyday cop in America. The the cops in China have a tendency to take a much more passive role in things. They aren't actively patrolling for things. They aren't actively going out looking for people committing crimes. It's more, if they have to respond, then they respond. It's very different. In the United States, obviously, the police patrol, and they're actively looking for crimes in progress and trying to stop those kinds of things from happening. As I said, they're very much more passive here, and I found that they really don't want to have to go and deal with things, generally speaking. I wonder if anybody notices a difference between this frame and the last, where it was showing me. Probably so. Anyway, I just to illustrate my point, I once saw a car accident occur right in front of me, and next to me was a policeman. They were in their car, their lights were on. As soon as it happened anyway, they turned their lights on, and I thought, oh, okay, they're gonna go and, you know, deal with what they see happening there, the accident. And instead, they had turned their lights on so they could go through the intersection and go around the accident. It was like that. So kind of fun. I mean, it wasn't a bad accident or anything, but it was really funny, because if it had been in the United States, you know, the police would have gone right over there and started dealing with the accident. But nah, they just went around it and left. It was really amusing to see. Yeah, they don't have traffic cops really. I mean, the traffic cops, their job is like if they set up, you know, a sobriety checkpoint, or they're checking to see if you have a driver's license when you're going down the road or something, you know. They'll set up some checkpoints, but they don't really have like cops waiting, you know, to check your speed, and they're going to come and pull you over and give you a ticket. They don't do that here. They have cameras for that. And trying to report, you know, something happening here in China is really a challenge sometimes, because they don't want to do anything, you know. They just, being a cop isn't about, you know, enforcing the law here. It's about your position, I guess. I don't know. I've never actually known anyone that worked in the police department. Not really. Yeah, I once had to report a lost passport to the police here in China. And believe me, it was almost impossible to get them to do anything. It took forever. It took a lot of convincing. Eventually it took putting some money in someone's pocket to get them to do anything. That showed me right there, reporting a crime in China is very difficult. You heard about my wife's experience in the last video, where her mother-in-law, or not her mother-in-law, my mother-in-law, and her sister, they all went to confront this lady. That's quite a thing. And yeah, I remember when that happened, I got word, like, we're at the police station. I'm like, oh no, what in the world is this, you know? And that's another story for another time perhaps. But anyway, once the police heard that, like, oh, it's, you know, some kind of family dispute, they're like, well, we don't want to do anything. We don't want to deal with it, you know, whatever, just go. They really aren't there to do police work like what we think of police work. It's more for the extra things, like me having to give them 200 kwai, which is 200 RMB, or $30 or something to that effect. Just to get them to fill a report out so that I could, you know, report my passport lost, which was a requirement for me to get anything, you know. If you want to get a new passport from the government, the U.S. government, you at least that's what they told me. I had to have a report of it being lost, and oh, what a disaster that was. That was years ago now, but yeah, what fun. What amazing fun. Now, of course, I do think if you were to make a personal enemy of someone within the police department, they would probably go after you with everything in the world. They'd probably make things up. In some cases, I'm not saying they're all dirty cops or something, but, you know, when someone's in a position of power in China, that's kind of the way it works. Yeah, they don't like to do things. They don't like to have to put in the effort. So, where in the United States, if you get arrested, the police might be looking to charge you with every little thing they possibly can, especially if they get annoyed by you in the process. Here in China, they would do the bare minimum because they want to do as little work as they possibly can. And like I said, the entire purpose is just to get a little bit of extra money on the side. So if they are charging you with something, it might be, you know, threatening to charge you with something so that they can get something extra. And I'm not saying it's like that all the time, but it pretty much is. Another example of what I'm talking about, the guy that owns the place that my wife and son are in now and where we're staying at the moment, he's a cop. He's on the police force here in China. I guess in that case, I do know someone that works in the police force. And he owns 3 houses. Now, you might be thinking about, well, that's maybe not a big deal in China. Believe me, real estate in China is very, very valuable at the moment. You know, that might be equivalent to about $1 million worth of real estate for just some regular cop. You have to think about that. How did he afford that on his salary? Well, yeah, that's just, and I'm not accusing him of doing anything wrong. You know, maybe it was gifts from his family. Who knows? They're probably connected in the government too. Oh, here comes another tunnel. But yeah, that's probably not uncommon for people working in the police department to have property like that. But yeah, they really like to work as little as possible. Versus the United States, where the police are very active and looking for things to charge you with, you know. They're going to go overboard. And that's probably good in China that they're not actively looking to get people with crimes, because unlike the United States, there's nothing about, well, it might be written in the law that you're innocent until proven guilty. I don't know that it is. I don't know enough about Chinese law as far as that's concerned to fully be aware of that. But needless to say, if you get caught or if you get taken by the cops, whether you're guilty or not, you're guilty. You're going to be convicted. I think they have like a 90-something% conviction rate. Obviously, a lot of those people were innocent and probably just crossed the cops, but they can't admit being wrong. That would be losing face for the police department and the justice system here. But yeah, that doesn't happen. So it's probably good that they're not out there like the U.S. cops actively looking to get people. Because if they were, then a lot of people would be in jail. Because, you know, they can't admit that they were wrong when they arrest someone. So there you go. And while I have light, I might as well comment. You've probably noticed just from my drive here, the scenery here is absolutely amazing. Fujian province, apparently among some circles, I didn't know this before, is known as the Hawaii of China. It's not an island, it's just because of how it looks. It's amazingly beautiful here, so if you ever do decide to come to China as a tourist, maybe skip Beijing, maybe skip Shanghai. I recommend coming to Fujian province and visiting the beach. Go to Fuzhou. This is a beautiful place. Come and see the temples. The place is full of temples. Real temples, not, you know, fake ones built for tourists, but actual temples. This is an amazing place. I'm surprised that more people don't come to visit. I guess the big places like Beijing and Shanghai probably just, they suck in all the tourist dollars. People aren't really coming here, but you should. Maybe if the world ever goes back to normal, I've kind of given up on that happening. Just things are too crazy. This is the year where anything that I could possibly have imagined being, you know, bad or just something that would happen in a movie, it's happening in real life. You know, a plague that goes all over the world and is so bad that it shuts down the world economy. Then this whole mess with Hong Kong, you know, I figured that would never happen because you know, they need to have that. They need that's their one connection to the yeah, well, not their one connection, but that's their world economic center. They had control of it, and now their new national security law in Hong Kong has basically killed that and killed Hong Kong. They're being humiliated all over the place because of that. Talk of war, you know, before I was making videos saying I didn't think a war would happen, but now, hey, you know, who really knows? I have no idea what's going to happen. There could be a war, you know, between the United States and China. It could blow up over Taiwan. It could blow up in the South China Sea, and just out of desperation, because you never know. You know, I didn't picture that there'd be massive riots in the United States either. I'm hearing about places where I've lived, and you know, I'm thinking of going back to the United States, and now this happens. I'm in the process of getting a place for us to move, and then all of this. It's just insanity. Who knows what's next? Is a giant rock gonna come and smash into the earth? I don't know. It's just insanity. I really don't know what's next. But hopefully the world can calm down and everything can go back to normal. That's my hope. But I'm not going to hold my breath because, well, right now it just seems to be moving further and further into the realm of crazy fantasy land. Oh, another tunnel. Here we go. Lots of fun with these tunnels. This is a short one, though. Well, I'm running out of light, so it's going to get really hard to see me, so I better wrap this thing up pretty quick. But I did want to talk about one last thing, the economy. And some of the things that I'm seeing happening here in China. I don't know if it's gotten to the Western media. Probably not, with all these riots and things happening. But yeah, the Chinese economy, I think, is doing really bad. They won't admit it, but they just recently... Oh, the GPS. They just recently have started allowing people to sell from street stands, and basically saying it's okay to just take a bunch of stuff, roll out a blanket, throw it on the ground, and start selling, and the police aren't going to bother you. They have been really, really against that over the last few years, and for them to allow that to come back is a real testament to how desperate things are getting. They're hoping that that can somehow save them. A lot of people think that's a move to try and save the economy. It has nothing to do with the economy, believe me. Well, at least in my opinion. I should say. I'm not privy to what they're talking about at the highest levels of Chinese government or anything. I'm pretty sure that this is because there are so many people out of work, so many people that have had their businesses go under, that a lot of people are just on the verge, you know, they're probably desperate, angry, and probably very angry with the government that they see stopping them from doing anything, because obviously it's a communist government, and they're really against free market stuff. So as they're moving into Hong Kong and starting to destroy the free market there, within China, they're loosening up to the point of extreme where it's becoming more of a free market than in the United States. I mean, in most American cities, it's not like you're going to throw a blanket out on the ground and start selling stuff. The police will show up and stop you, you know, but that's what they're doing. And I think it's more to alleviate that pressure, you know, hoping that people won't go crazy and start rioting like they are in Hong Kong. But I don't know, I'm afraid it's just a matter of time. If they keep cracking down on the people in Hong Kong, eventually people are going to start to sympathize with them here in the mainland. And that's going to spread, especially in Guangdong province where they share the same language. But yeah, that's an interesting development. I haven't thought about it. Man, all those night markets that I love so much, they might be on the return now, you know. That would be fantastic. I would love that. Too bad it's right when I'm looking to leave China, and things are so bad now as far as the economy is concerned. But yeah, an interesting development. And with that, I think I've probably got more than enough for this video, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I don't know if anyone can see me anymore. It's getting pretty dark, but I guess we'll see you guys in the next one.